welcome to the latest podcast about Who Viewed Your Profile with myself and Adam. This one's one that's close to our both our hearts. What makes people trust you on LinkedIn, Adam? So, Adam, what makes people trust you on LinkedIn?
Well, good question, Chris. So, first of all, before we talk about that, I think we need to talk about what's known as the trust deficit.
Oh, yep.
And it's a thing which what it means is that people are just jaded from so much content online, scams, all that sort of thing. So trust is one of the hardest things to establish, the easiest thing to break. So LinkedIn, though, is an incredibly powerful platform at actually being able to build that trust more so than many other platforms. So the first thing is, you got to if you value trust, or you're in an industry that is trust based, which is many industries these days, then building that trust is super important. So what is it that you said? The question is, what makes people trust me on LinkedIn? I think there's a number of things. One, that it's active. Two, that the profile is verified, which we've talked about many times, and that we use a lot of proof markers, which are things like recommendations. Even there's a section on a profile that's it's not a highly used by many people, but the publications section. You don't have to only have, like, if you've written a book, or it could be that you've been on a podcast or as a guest on a podcast, or you spoke at an industry event, or there was a press release about your organization or something like that. These sort of things create trust because they show third-party validation of who you are and what you do.
And also, I mean, go back to I think endorsements and skills, and that used to be a thing on LinkedIn, but isn't really anymore, is it? People don't really endorse people anymore for skills, do they?
Certainly not as much as they used to, and it's more of a proof and trust marker for LinkedIn itself. So, which is in to say it is a good thing. So, and it's one of the those things. I think it comes down to what's known as the law of reciprocity. So, if you want people to endorse your skills and things like that, and there is a lot of value in having that done, then do unto others as you would like them to do unto you.
And I do think that content comes into that as well. And a lot of people say to me, I like your authenticity, I like your content, therefore I'm more likely to trust you than when I see some AI generated content or some content that's clearly not written by the person that is the post I'm reading about. They like authenticity. Your videos are extremely authentic, for example. My content's extremely authentic. Whether you like it or not, it's authentic, and therefore I've written it. Just like you are the one in the video. I think content is part of the trust factor on LinkedIn, unlike, I would say, other social media platforms where this is AI-generated slop. And of course, that is affecting LinkedIn more and more. But I think people are, I should say this nicely, people are more intelligent, I think, on LinkedIn than they are on the other platforms. I don't use the other platforms, so I don't really care if I offend you if you're on Instagram. But it is about basically you trust people on LinkedIn because you are verified. Most people on Instagram are not. Facebook are not. TikTok certainly not. The other platforms definitely not. So it's all about making sure that your content follows through on your personal brand, on your values, and what you actually believe in, being consistent. Whether you want to go down my route, which is talking about local topics, for example, or Adam's route, where you avoid local topics, where we have slightly different strategies when it comes to content marketing, because it's not a be-all and one-all when it comes to content marketing on LinkedIn. It is that you have to be bespoke, you have to be personalized, and what works for me works differently to Adam. What works for you will work differently to your friends and your neighbors and people in your own company. So it's all about, I think, if you are authentic, people are more likely to trust you, even if they disagree with your content. And I have people all the time saying, I didn't agree with what you said, but I respect the fact you actually said that. Let's meet up and talk about what you can do for me on the content side of things. And it's proof of the pudding. If they see you and I actually being trusted by other people, they're much more likely to trust us with their LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, very true. And just a couple of things on what you just shared then, and especially around other platforms. And as we know, like on X or Twitter or whatever the heck Elon's calling it this week, and Instagram and things like that, you actually pay for verification. There is no trust because all it says to me, oh, well, you just paid
Yeah.
for that, as opposed to LinkedIn. There's no cost.
Yeah.
If someone's verified, they've done it because
Yep.
they see the value in being verified.
Yep.
The second thing around content, 100% that variety of content, but also consistency.
Yeah.
So you can't be just posting every now and then.
Yeah.
Now there's many different strategies around, do you post once a day, twice a day, whatever. As a bare minimum, I would say 3 times a week is where you will need to sit. And keeping in mind, and often people say to me, oh, but I don't want to overwhelm my followers and connections, and say, well, just newsflash, they don't see every piece of content that you share, so I wouldn't be too worried about that.
And most of them are not on LinkedIn every single day like me and Adam are.
That's right. So consistency is definitely does show that that you're trustworthy, and it also obviously by consistency means that you're sharing points of view on a number of different things.
So, I mean, what is the role? We're going to talk about this much more in the content episodes we're going to do, but what do you think the role of comments is in terms of engagement, in terms of building trust, but also reputation by association, as we're talking about trust here? What about that reputation? Is it a good thing when someone, for example, who's a conspiracy theorist starts commenting on your posts?
Well, yeah, it's I mean, that is definitely something that is trust, is that I think that you're responding to the people who comment on your posts.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's you don't need everybody to agree with you.
No.
And in fact,
they need to be sane, don't they?
Well, it's a preference. It's definitely a preference. But under the new sort of 360 brew algorithm these days, the comments are content these days. So, you being outbound, commenting on other people's profiles. Having said that too, Chris, like as what you said about that level of sanity sometimes, I'm sure you're the same. I get contacted all the time by people who have had their accounts restricted or have been deactivated and whatever. And when I ask them, well, what did you do to have that happen? The standard answer is always nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. But when you delve more into that, more and more these days, it's from people having very polarizing opinions that they're sharing on other people's content, not from the point of view that they're necessarily disagreeing. Nothing wrong with disagreeing with somebody, but where you start to go down the line of hate speech and stuff like that, you very much risk having your profile banned. And if that's happening on your account, you can you can block these people. Block them, That's what I do. Now I don't have a problem if somebody has a polar opposite point of view to me. I'm okay with that. And sometimes I'll just say, we'll just agree to disagree, and it should end things there. If it doesn't, then that's where you need to start blocking.
But the problem is, when I had one over the weekend, for example, I got a post going viral, and this guy came in and said, completely ignoring what the post was about, and said, yes, but Wi-Fi gives you cancer. It's like, excuse me, what? And he basically, linked various things to why Wi-Fi gave you cancer. And it's like, everyone in Singapore has got to get cancer because they're all on the Wi-Fi. It's like, we were talking about a different subject to do with Wi-Fi, which had nothing to do with this whatsoever. It's like, and, what do I do then? I mean, normally what I do, and I did here, is like, you delete the comment, you block the guy, because there's no real coming back from, like, a conspiracy theorist who thinks that, for example, COVID was made up, or that, there's some conspiracy theories to, that Trump won the election in 2020 and he didn't, kind of thing. Oh, anything, those kind of things. There's a no-win situation because they're not going to change their mind. This guy was adamant. I was saying that's not true. And he was saying, no, but all these studies here, there's like all these studies of people, organizations that you wouldn't trust either. And so you just have to block them, because otherwise what can happen, Adam, is people then say, well, does Chris agree with this?
Yeah.
He's not deleting it. Does Chris agree?
Yeah.
And that can damage they trust you less because of it.
Correct. So if you do get that you're right. You either block it, delete, or you call it out.
Yes.
In a professional way.
Yes.
The other thing to also keep in mind is that there's always, and I'm sure, and I've seen it on your post too, where people try to hijack your post to promote their own business or whatever. There is no bigger killer of trust than if you are seen to be posting on other people's content, promoting your own product or service. Now, they don't even necessarily have to be in competition to you. you and I both get other people in the LinkedIn space commenting,
Absolutely.
and I'm quite okay with
Yeah,
that.
likewise.
It's probably how you and I originally met.
I think it probably was.
But that's fine. But
Yeah.
when they start, but I don't go on your post and
Buy my service.
or anything like that. No, I'll in majority of cases I'll agree with you, or I'll put another point of view or something like that that just opens conversation for people. That's one of the biggest builders of trust. We've got a number of clients that their strategies are doing really, really well because what they're doing is they're going out and strategically picking people that are not competitors, but that have a large audience. People like, I'm not saying Stephen Bartlett is a client of ours. He's not. But if you don't know who Stephen Bartlett is, have a look at him on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yeah. He's based in the UK, very, 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 very active. He's got called the Diary of the CEO. But anyway, people like that. A lot of the people, and I will go myself and quite often comment on his posts in a very insightful way. Where again,
does he reply?
No, but he's someone that will get thousands and thousands of comments. So it's not about necessarily whether or not that person replies to you, but what I get all the time is people coming back and say, "Oh, I saw that comment you left on Stephen's post or Daniel Priestley's post or whoever it might be," and I then looked at your profile, and so I'm reaching out because I'd like to know more about your services. So I'm not actually pitching a product or service. I'm pitching my opinion.
But I think that has to be strategic. So we do that for clients. So when we onboard a client, we'll ask them, whose profiles do you respect? Whose profiles do you wish to be commenting on? We will then comment on those, and we will actually say to you, we're going to comment on these 10 posts from these 10 opinion leaders in your area, which might actually get you clients because people will then see your profile as a result of it. So we're quite strategic in how that. We wouldn't go after someone like, I know, Barack Obama or Richard Branson just for the sake of it. We'd say, is this person relevant to you getting a potential client from his followers, for example? If they're not, then we wouldn't do someone like that in, say, in America. If they're living in Singapore, for example, they want to win a client in Singapore, we'd say, well, why don't you do PM Wong, or why don't you do President Tharman, or why don't you do the CEO of Grab or DBS or CT, someone who's basically relevant in Singapore, and then you will get the same effect. You'll get lots of thousands of views, and you'll get them people going, oh, so what do you do? Oh, I'm in that industry. Oh, I need someone to help me. So I think you have to use it. Because going back to your earlier point, I think in podcast 2 or podcast 3 about vanity metrics, it's very easy to go on, you and I could go on the top 10 LinkedIn profiles and put an outrageous comment on there and get millions of views and get no business as a result of it. I think it has to be strategic because I think that builds up your trust. I think you lose trust if you're just doing it for vanity metrics.
I agree 100%. I'm not suggesting you should do it for that reason. Like I was using like my strategy personally because the people who are following those people, and we now have a global audience. We got client base in over 20 different countries between Black Marketing and Prominence Global. So we can be a little global.
Absolutely.
But if in an individual circumstance, then yes, you want to be. I think it's okay to have a mixture between very industry specific people and also people that just, if they, not from the point of view that they're super active or they've got a big audience, but do they have the right audience? Are the people that are, probably following them and engaging with them? And that, again, you can use things like Sales Navigator to go and have a look at their profile and look at the whole bunch of the people that they're connected to. And you can tell very quickly with extra filters and things, are these my people?
Yes.
And therefore you can, use commenting to build trust in a very strategic way.
And I think basically, one of the easiest ways to maybe lose trust, for example, is by overclaiming.
Yeah.
If you claim, you're too good at something, people, and I've had that on my LinkedIn, when I claim to have 2,000 recommendations, and I give you proof because I do a screen grab of every single recommendation and put it into a deck, and I'll send it over to you if you basically want to know it. It's on my LinkedIn now. You can go through and have a look at it. I say, here they are. People say, nah, you don't have 2,000 recommendations. I go, no, but I do. Look, you can literally go through to all these people and ask them, did you recommend Chris? And I think, if you have too much of something, or you try to claim too much of something, and somebody else doesn't have any recommendations, for example, they're then skeptical about why you have more than, say, 10 recommendations, let alone a couple of thousand like you and I have, for example. How do you get over something like that?
I think that one, it's the terminology I like to use on it is you have to have a defendable position.
Yeah.
Now, all that means is that when questioned like that, and it does happen, you've got to be able to back it up.
Yeah.
There's how many people have we seen that have profiles on LinkedIn that make, like you said, these outrageous claims, or say that I've worked with thousands of people or whatever, and you go on and zero recommendations. Like, seriously.
Or the worst ones, Adam, when they say I've generated 10 billions worth of sales from these clients, or I've transformed all these clients, and then you go on to the no recommendations, and then you even click through to the people they say they've transformed their profiles, or they've transformed into billion-dollar sales. They go, you got like 200 followers and no recommendations on the profile you supposedly transformed.
Well, even so, you go onto that profile and then they're not connected. Yeah. So so all these little things, and as I said, it comes back to this trust deficit.
Yeah.
So people are looking for reasons not to trust you more than they're looking for reasons to trust you. So you've got to just really have that positioning that sits you in a defendable way. So like you said, 2,000 recommendations, I can back it up. I can send you a deck. You can look at all of these profiles. That's a defendable position.
Yeah.
So stay away from these generic, outrageous claims.
Yeah.
But by the same token, don't be afraid to talk it up if you can back it up.
There's a fine balance between the two, isn't it? I mean, we've never gone down the route of black marketing. I'm not sure about Prominence Global, but we never said we've generated this many $1 billion worth of business, because it's just it's no possible. You cannot verify I've said that. I cannot verify it. No one can verify it. It's made up. It's bullshit. It is bullshit.
Yeah, and there, often, I've had people in that situation where I said, well, how do you back that up? And they say, oh, but they release their results or whatever. I say, so you're saying what you did with them was 100% of their revenue. So come on, guys, it's outrageous claims is definitely
that's how you lose, I think, trust, and you lose confidence. People lose confidence, and if you're trying to be too clever and too basically self-promote too much, because people will verify it. These days, people can definitely verify it. So what would you say to someone who's watching this, Adam, who hasn't got any recommendations at all? How would they start?
Well, I would say go back and look at the last sort of 10 people that you've worked with. Yeah. And just reach out to them. As we talked about in an earlier episode, people are not going to naturally go and give these to you. Yeah. Reach out to them and say, hey, we did X, Y, Z together. Yeah. If I shared a link to them, a profile, could you do that? Equally, as you're going forward, just say, hey, Chris, we're about to do some good work together. And this is what we do often now is say, look, in 90 days time, I'm going to reach out to you, and would you be open to leaving, a recommendation about the work we've done together? So I precede it before we even start. Very good idea. Yeah. And then of course you've got to back it up. You've got to go and reach out to them, and don't be too concerned if you're at a 0 or very low, because you can work a little bit backwards, but you can also work forward. I also don't think you should just ask people you worked directly to. I had one the other day. A client the other day said, basically, I want to increase my recommendations. Who should I actually ask? And they said, should I just ask my boss? And I said, well, if you just ask your boss, that's 2 people, because you work for 2 companies over 20 years. What you need to ask is anybody who worked with you, anybody who worked for you, anybody who's a partner with you, anybody who basically knows you in a professional context, anybody who came into contact. So if you did a talk, anyone who basically you inspired at a talk, anyone you mentored, literally look at it holistically and say, anyone I touched in a professional capacity, I can ask them for a recommendation. Yeah, and that way you'll get a holistic view of your personal brand, not just your boss says you're a good guy. Because what happens if somebody thinks, shall I work for this person? Is he a good person? And you've got no recommendations for none of your employees. You go, well, that's a red flag. Or none of your partners basically, or your suppliers have recommended you. And again, another red flag. So you need to have, I think, a holistic view of who you ask to recommend you. Yeah, very good point. And I think the only one, the recommendation that's not going to be worth much is the one from your mum. Very true. That's very, very true. But Adam, we have an event coming up, don't we? Yeah, very soon. Go on the Who Viewed My Profile podcast website.
which is whoviewmyprofilepodcast.com.
That's it. And there's a link there to the live event. You'll be able to put in your questions, what you'd like us to talk about. I'm going to cover those topics.
Fantastic. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.